So it's service time on the Suzuki. Hasn't been done in about 1,000 Ks, 1,500 Ks, and now that's not very much, but hasn't been done in over a year. So I thought it was time, change the air filter, put new oil in it, new filters, and put new coolant through it. So what I've picked up for the Suzuki service is a air filter, a fuel filter, another fuel filter that just goes right before the carby to clean any more stuff out that was in the line, an oil filter, some new Penrite oil from 1540, some coolant. Now this should use the blue stuff because it's silicate free, but they didn't have any, so we just went with the green stuff, radiator flush, and some water. So I'm going to do the air filter first. Now I'll just take off the intake with a fillet, pop the clips off, slide it all out, pull the old air filter out, which was quite a bit dirtier than the new one. As you can see, new one on top, old one down the bottom. It was really time for a change. Now when changing your air filter, make sure you've got no dirt where the air filter actually seals onto the air box and on the lid of the air box. And then also get a bit of grease, doesn't matter what it is, just a bit of grease, and put that around the top and bottom sealing surfaces of the air filter. Now that'll stop any fine bits of dust getting through and hold it in there and seal it much better. So now that we've done that, we can put our airbox back together. Just get your intake hose, put that on, clamp the top airbox cover on, make sure it's all sealed, clamp it down, and that's your air filter changed. So now we'll drop the oil. Now two good things to remember are to take your fill cap off. That'll let there be no suction in the engine and the oil just to rush out, and to also have a hot engine, or at least warm, because that'll make the oil less thick and it'll just come out the drain hole a lot easier. So we're under the car now, and get yourself a socket that fits onto the drain plug and a drain pan to let your oil go in. So crack that, and be careful of this because the oil will be hot, so get it to a point and then try and pull it away. And we'll let that drain out. So now you've got your oil filter to remove. Now there's a few ways of doing it. I've just got one of these oil filter wrench sort of things. Put that over, clamps on, and it'll untwist. Make sure you've got a drain pan underneath, because mine's on an angle on the side, it'll start dripping oil out. You don't want to get that on your shed floor. With your new oil filter, make sure it's the same to the old one, and then put a bit of oil around the seal so it doesn't go on and twist and whatnot. It'll go on easier and it'll come off easier. Now only hand tighten these, just get it nice and snug, and then that's alright for an oil filter. Don't tighten it with a wrench. So a good thing to do if your oil filter sits under your engine upright like that, instead of on the side of the engine like this, or even upside down, some do, is fill it with oil, and then your engine doesn't have to dry pump for so long. So if it's up like that, you fill it with oil and then you can just screw it on and your engine doesn't have to prime the oil system. Now with your drain plug, you could either have a metal washer or you could have a little like felt washer like I've got. Now I don't have another one, so we're just going to get a little bit of silicone and we're just going to put it around the bottom threads. Now the last thing you want is a bit of silicone getting in your engine, so just put that around the bottom threads and it'll hold what the little gasket on the bottom doesn't. And that's all you need, just a bit around the bottom half of the threads, and that'll just seal it, and it means you won't have to put as much force onto tightening it, because that silicone will hold it in there. So my engine takes 3.5 litres of oil. Now the oil filter will probably take about another half a litre, but we'll just keep adding on from there. So 3.5 litres in this is about down to the 1.5 litre mark, so we'll just start pouring some in. Nice new golden Penrite. So now we'll start the engine for a little bit, get the oil turning through, get the oil pressure up, and then we can check it again and probably add a little bit more. Wait till your oil pressure light goes off. then you can turn the engine off. Simple as that. So my engine just took over 4 litres. Now you don't want to go overfilling your engine. A little bit's fine, but like a half a litre is a bit too much. So you want to kind of get it right on that full mark if you can. So now we're going to change the coolant. Now I've got the Penrite green coolant. As I said, should take blue, but there was none. And I've got some radiator flush. So I'll run that through before we put the new coolant in. Now on the bottom of your radiator, you've got a little drain cock like this. Now just unscrew it the whole way and let all the coolant flow out like that. Make sure you got the cap off, so just like the oil, it flows out nice and smooth. Now reading on the back of the bottle, it'll tell you what to do. I think this can do about 2 of these engines. Yeah, so this bottle will do up to 15 litres, and I think this is only about 5 or 6, so we'll only have to use about half of this. So now that we've drained the cooling system and we've put our drain plug back in, we'll just start filling the radiator up, and while we fill it, we'll just put about half of that bottle in. So now that it's full, we'll chuck the cap back on, run it for a bit, turn the heater on so it runs through the heater core, then we'll come back out, check it, top it up, and then it says run it for about 10 minutes to really clean it. And that's about 10 minutes. Let's see what stuff comes out. Yeah, it's not too bad actually. And now we chuck some new coolant in. Now, I didn't get premix, this is concentrate. Only reason is it was just cheaper, so I got some of that. Now, it holds about 4 litres, this cooling system. So I put 2 litres of this and fill the rest up with just plain tap water. Now the factory one's a bit hard to get to. It's kind of just above the rear diff here. Now you can see this is the new one. Sits in there like that. So we've got a 10mm bolt there to undo a strap, and then a few flathead and a kind of a crimp thing that you got to pull in and pull out, and then we can just chuck a new filter in. That's the new filter on there, and that's the old one down there. So I brought it over to the bench to have a look inside, cut it open, and just gave it a shake. Something's loose, so let's cut the top off and have a look. Well, wouldn't you know? There's the filter element, and there's the housing. That's meant to be stuck onto the top there. Yeah, I'm glad I put that second filter on, but that's why I need a filter. It's absolutely filthy. It's got chunks of stuff in it. It's got bits of dirt in there, so glad I've got 2 filters on it. And that's the service done. So it's pretty simple on this old car. Some other cars are a lot trickier, but the Suzuki I could get done in half an hour, fuel filter and all. So yeah, it runs a lot better now. That air filter definitely was restricting it a lot. I found I went for a drive and there's a lot more power, a lot more response. I think next thing to do is spark plugs, because they're getting a bit I think they're a bit old and they're starting to misfire a bit, so spark plugs are next, but all in all that was a good service.